Hi, I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. In this video, we're going to continue with the series of how to build an arrangement for your tracks inside of Universal Audio's Luna. Now, this isn't Luna specific as such. You can do exactly the same thing in any DAW, but the reason why I'm saying Luna is because some of the sounds that we're using are coming from the instruments inside of Luna. If you haven't seen where we've got to so far, there's a link up here somewhere. And if you click on there, you'll go to the video that shows you exactly how we've got to this point. Today, we're going to be concentrating on bass and drums. So what I'm going to do is just to quickly play you the start of the track with everything in. There's three elements that remains from the start to the finish of this song, and one is an 808 bass, which sounds like this. And we have these two percussion parts. And here's the other one. Now, this basically is the whole song. If I just play that with the vocal.
My step and stumble, darkness comes from under.
That is the way that the whole song was written between me and Jack Rubinacci. We had those two simple percussion parts, the 808 bass, and a really simple guitar, which is this one here.
Lose my step and stumble.
So that is basically the whole of the verse section. If I take that out of solo, now what I'm going to do is to show you what happens as it goes into the chorus. Okay, so as you can hear, the chorus gets this big lift as all of the instruments come in. Now, there's one way that you can really lift up your choruses, and that's to add a transition effect. Now, transition effects is effectively what is going to be replacing a drum fill. It sounds like this. So we get this big sweep up into the chorus. All of the main drums in the chorus sections are coming from Shape, which is an instrument that comes with Universal Audio's Luna. Let's load up the kick drum and solo it. And let's bring in the click. And then we've got some breaths on top of that. Right, let's bring in the snare. All of these different parts have different instruments on them. Now, what I mean by that is I haven't just got one instrument and then I'm routing that instrument, the outputs of that instrument, to different tracks inside of Luna. Luna can't do that at the moment. So what I've actually done is to load in separate versions of Shape onto each track. Now, as you can see, so the kick is playing, it's basically playing that kick sound. The click is basically playing this. And the breaths are doing this. And then we have a snare. If you listen to that snare inside the track, I'm just going to mute these two tracks here. If you listen to the snare inside this track, it's quite bland. Have a listen. Right, let's solo all those parts. what I then decided to do with that snare is to take it outside of Luna and put it into a guitar pedal. Now, the guitar pedal that I'm using for this is this guitar pedal here, which is the MXR M300 reverb pedal. So it's going into a reamp box and then into the pedal and then back into my Apollo interface. So what I decided to do with this, let me just play you the snare on its own. And I'm going to bring in the two reverbs. There's the snare. Here's the first reverb, which is a plate. So what we've got there is the initial crack of the snare and then a pre-delay where the reverb does this big stereo thing. Have another listen. Then I decided to bring in the shimmer type reverb, which does this strange sort of panning thing. Have a listen to this. So we've got two different reverbs there. One which has got pre-delay, which creates a after effect, and then a panning reverb, which does this sort of spinning thing. Let's hear that in the track. And let me turn up those effects. The next part that comes in for the chorus, that gives the chorus a bit of a lift and some extra rhythm, is the tambourine part. Now, if you can play a tambourine, if you can buy yourself a tambourine, it really adds to your productions. Now, and I mean this because you could use a loop, but a loop is fairly static. So when you're playing a loop, it's normally a 1 or 2 bar loop that just repeats and repeats and repeats. If you're playing a tambourine, you're actually playing that in and you're actually playing a rhythm which is going to be affected over time. Now, two really important things, I think, with a tambourine. One is the type of microphone you use. Now, you can use any microphone you've got lying around. You have to be careful if you're using a condenser microphone, as what it tends to do is to distort the capsule. So I would highly recommend getting something like a Shure SM57. Now, the SM57 is absolutely useless for anything apart from guitar cabinets, sometimes snares, and tambourines, but for those three elements it's a magical mic, and they're fairly inexpensive. But the SM57 can take a huge sound pressure level going into the microphone, which will not be distorted by something like a tambourine. So let's have a listen to all of those elements so far. Now, there are two more things that come in from this, and that is a percussion loop. So let's hear that. Now note, these are only coming in on the chorus. And as you can hear, it's doing this sort of big stereo effect. Let's bring in the second one. So they're both doing this stereo effect, and for me, in my productions, what I like to do is to add lots of stereo elements in, and that makes your mix so much bigger, makes your production so much bigger, as there's lots of interest going on in either speaker. Right, let's hear that with all of the different parts. And let's bring in a guitar as well, just so we can give it some context. Now, with my productions, what I like to do is to build up and build up and build up towards the last chorus. So the first and the second chorus have smaller production elements, and then as the song goes on, we get more elements in there. Now, the last element that I'm adding in from the middle 8 onwards, so that's the middle 8 even into the last choruses, is this final drum loop. Right, let's hear that with bass. And let's bring in the kick. And let's bring in the rest of the percussion. And now that loop remains for the rest of the song. Let's hear it in context.
When I'm blind and I can't see, there's a voice that lead me home. When the darkness swallows me and the fears won't.
So I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. I really hope you guys got something out of that. Join me in the next video where we're going to be looking at the vocals and how to mix the vocals and how to place the vocals in the song. Thank you to everyone that's bought me a coffee. I can't thank you enough. If you do want to buy me a coffee, you can do in the link below. And I'm Paul from the Studio Rats, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.